Hey everybody, I am going to do a quick tutorial today, hopefully quick, on how to make the minimalist tote bag. I've been making a few of these. I have had several people request the PDF for it, so I will make that available on the website. And also if you wanted to add the templates, those will be available also. If you make a lot of these, then the investment in the templates would make sense. If you're just gonna make one, I would just get the PDF. So instead of doing written instructions, I'm just gonna do the video tutorial on this one. They're really, really easy. The only thing that's required is some rivets and a sewing machine. So I don't think that it requires written instructions. I think it's gonna be pretty simple and straightforward. And the nice thing about this bag is it's easy to adapt the size, kind of like the cosmetic case. It's gonna be built basically the same way, except obviously we're not gonna put a zipper in it. But super easy to adapt, and honestly, it's a really good bag to start off if you're not familiar with making bags, because you can really build off of this and do a lot of different things. It's a bag that you can easily go back in if you wanted to upgrade it. You could add a lining to it. You can add an exterior zipper pocket. You could add a fringe. You could add a contrasting panel to the front. So many different options that you can do. So this is just kind of your basic bag to start, and then you can learn from that and build off of it to do some other fun stuff. So if you're just new to bags, great opportunity to start making them. So here's what the bag is gonna look like. This one I made out of an oil tanned hide. This is actually out of Kentucky Derby, and it's available from Springfield Leather. It takes, I want to say that this bag at a minimum takes about 7.5 to 8 square feet of leather, and that's assuming you have perfect piece of leather. So I would probably, depending on your leather, you'd probably want to order about 10 or so. The straps, make sure you have enough length for your straps. The straps are about 30 inches from end to end. And this one I did 4 because I doubled up the straps. So anyway, so basically it has, measurements are 18 at the top, 12 across the bottom. There's 6-inch boxed bottom, and it's 12 inches high. It has a patch pocket on the back, and then inside it has a hanging pocket so there's your hanging pocket, and then it has a little card slot on the front that you can see. And those are gonna just hang right off the same rivets that we use to attach the handles. So really, really easy. This sewing that's on here is really just decorative. So anyway, so we're gonna get started. I've already cut out the majority of my pattern. This leather is some other stuff that I just got from Springfield. It's a pebbled grain. And this was on their odd lot table, I believe. I'm wanting to say maybe it was like $3 a square foot. So, but it is lovely. It's really, really heavy. So on this particular bag that we're gonna make, we're only gonna do single ply handles. We're not gonna double them up because I don't really think it's necessary. So anyway, this is the bag. This is the piece for the pocket on the back. Here are my interior pockets. Here's my card slot pocket. And then here are my panels. And this particular hide had this awesome brand on it. So I'm gonna incorporate that into the front of the bag. So I wanted to go ahead and get all this stuff cut out so I wasn't doing it in the video. So we got all that prepped. Basically, your templates, if you do want to add the templates, you're going to get a template for the main body that will have the mark to where it attach the back pocket. We'll have your marks already in there for where to put your holes for your handles. And then you're going to get, this is your drop pocket template. You're going to have a card slot template. And then this particular, the back panel of the drop pocket will also act as a template for your front pocket, and you're just going to cut it to there. So the whole thing is what's going to be used for your hanging pocket, but then from here to here is what you're going to use for your back patch pocket. And then also there will be a template in there for the strap ends. You can either do a rounded end or you could do a pointed end, and you have obviously your holes for your rivets. That's what's going to come with the template or the PDF file. The PDF file you will have, it's going to have to be pieced together because it's not going to fit obviously on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So when you get that file, you're going to have to take and piece them together and then tape them and then use those for your pattern pieces, unless you can, well, they're going to come already, I'm going to separate them up for you, so you won't be able to just print it off at full size. You'll print it off at full size, but it will still require you to actually combine the pieces to make one piece. So make sure that when you buy the template or buy the PDF that you don't cut each individual piece for the front panel and the back panel. You're going to combine those up into one piece. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. Now I wanted to leave the straps not cut yet, so I can kind of go through cutting the straps. I know sometimes cutting just long strips of leather is not fun. So anyway, I have already got my straight edge on my leather. I use basically a 36-inch metal rule that I use to get my straight edge. Now what I'm going to do to cut my actual strap lengths is this is a 16-inch centering ruler that's 1 inch wide. So this will be perfect for me to assist in cutting my straps. Now, because I don't like to cut, when I'm cutting straight lines, I don't like to cut this way because I find it really kind of difficult. I prefer to cut like on the outside of my rule, or the top I should say. So I'm just going to use this in conjunction with my metal ruler. And what I'm going to do, like I said, I've already got my straight edge here. I'm going to just take this 1 inch ruler and I'm going to line that up at the very top. And this leather is thick enough, I can feel it. I got it nice and lined up at the top. And then I'm going to butt this ruler up to it. And then when I take this away, this will be my 1 inch. And I'm going to cut accordingly. But I'm going to let the dog in because she's barking, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So what we're going to do is, like I said, we've got our 1 inch wide acrylic ruler, and I got that lined up to the top edge of my leather, and then I'm going to butt up my heavier metal ruler to the bottom of that. That way I have my spacing. And I'm just going to slide it all the way down to the very end of my leather. Make sure everything's lined up good. I'm just using a really sharp wax knife to cut this. I cut about 12 inches or so, and then I just want to put this back on here and make sure that my spacing still is good, that I got everything nice and parallel. No, just continue cutting. So this pattern calls for, I believe, 30-inch straps, 2 sets. If you were going to double ply them, obviously you would do 4. But this is heavy enough that I'm not going to do that. So I just want a piece. I'm going to cut, this should cut all the way down. I should have plenty of strap. And just take your time doing this. Get that out of the way for now, so we should be good. So we've got, let's see how long a piece we've got here. Yeah, so this one here is actually just a little, probably about 62 inches, which will be just perfect. So we're gonna just put that aside for now. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to sew the pocket onto the back of the panel. What I want to do is transfer some marks from my template onto my leather. And I'm just using a silver marking pen. And I'm just going to lightly draw a line right inside this spot on the template. I'm going to put my little dots for my rivets. That's going to be before I punch my holes. There, I've got it. My marks transferred for that one. Now this is going to be the front. This is the one that's got the brand on it. It's going to be the front. So the only thing I need on this is my rivets for my handles. So line up my template again and just mark my holes for my rivets right there. So that's done. And while we are doing this, we'll go ahead and mark our pocket. This is our back slip pocket or our back patch pocket. And all I want to do on this is this particular, this particular hole here, I don't have my templates marked. I will have them marked. These are just like my prototypes that I just cut out of a cheaper acrylic. But anyway, this is going to be your holes to mark your rivets for the corners of your pocket, your patch pocket on the back. And then for the hanging pocket, you're going to mark both of the sets of holes. And then on the front of the hanging pocket, you're going to mark this. I just haven't taken the paper off of this particular template. That's why it's different color. So when you line these up, those holes are gonna match. So you're gonna rivet on your hanging pocket right there. And then this is gonna be where you're gonna attach them to the bag where we attach the handles. And then also while you're doing this front of your drop pocket, we're gonna trace the line for where we're gonna sew the corner, or the card pocket, excuse me. Okay, when I cut out this, instead of actually cutting out the rounded edges, I just cut it out square. And then I found a tool, let me find it. This is a little corner punch that I bought at Springfield Leather, and it does nice little 1/4 inch radius corners. And it matches up perfectly on the templates. So after I cut my squares, I'm just going to use this punch to round them off. So there you go. Much easier than trying to do it with a knife. Okay. Now, for this particular leather that I have, it's fairly heavy. I'm gonna say it's a good 5 ounce. So I'm actually going to skive some edges with my bell skiver. If you were making this and you don't have a skiver, it's not necessarily necessary. Just I would probably get like maybe a 3 to 4 ounce. The other one I did is it's the oil tan, the 4 to 5, and I did not skive any of the seams, and it worked fine. But this I think is a little heavy, so I'm going to go ahead and take this over to the skiver and skive down some edges, and I'll show you how that works in case anybody wants to see how those work. So give me a second, let me move my camera. Okay, so here is my bell knife skiver from Leather Machine Company. This is the NP4, and I'm finally getting a little more comfortable with it. I had some issues when I first got it because it seemed like I was having some problems, but I realized that it doesn't really like embossed leather all that much, I'll be honest with you. But for something like what we're gonna be doing, it works fabulous. It works great on oil tan, it works great on latigo, it works great on veg tan. It just does not like the unevenness of the embossed. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna skive down some seams, and only on some of the items. We're gonna skive the edges on the little pocket on the front, or on the inside. We're gonna skive down the edges on the pocket on the back, the outside patch. We're gonna skive down the edges on the front of the inside hanging pocket. And then we're gonna skive the seams on the front and back panel. And the biggest tip on these is make sure that you've test and make sure everything is how you want it before you actually skive your real piece of leather. So anyway, I've got a test piece of leather here. I think I've got it set how I want it as far as the depth and so forth. So I'm just gonna run it through. And that gives us really nice skive. So we're just gonna take off just a little bit and help those seams so that when we go to turn it, I don't have so much bulk right there. Okay. So on this is the front of the patch, or the front of the drop pocket. I keep getting them mixed up. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna do the 3 sides. We're not gonna skive the top edge. Okay, so there's that piece. Worked good. And the same thing, this is the outside patch. Remember, that's where we marked our holes for the rivets, so that's gonna be the top, and I don't want to skive that. I just want to do the other 3 sides. And all this is gonna do is just gonna reduce some bulk along the edge of these pockets. Like I said, this leather skives so nice. And then we're going to do this is the little card. And I'm just gonna move, this is my gauge, my depth, like how wide of a skive. I'm just gonna move that in just a little bit because I don't think I need quite so much on this one. So, and like all the other ones, we don't wanna do the top edge, just the other 3. So what I've learned on this is it's very important to make sure that blade is super sharp. Okay, now I'm gonna do the pieces, the panel pieces. All right, so we have everything skived. We've got the front drop pocket. We've got the little card pocket. We've got the back patch pocket. And I skived the panels. So again, if you don't have a skiver, just keep that in mind when you're picking your leather, and just make sure that probably wouldn't go over anything over 4 ounces on this, and then you won't have any problem. All right, so now what we're going to do is punch our holes for a rivet, so that's already done. So I've got a little 3/32 punch. I'm just gonna go ahead and mark or punch all the places that we have marked. It's a lot easier to do this when it's flat, I figured out. That's the nice thing about the templates is everything is already lined up for you. So all you gotta do is transfer the markings. And as long as you sew them and line everything up, you should be good. Okay, so we got those done. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start taping up our pieces so that we can take them over the sewing machine and sew them at the same time. This is some double-sided sticky tape that I got from wawak.com, W-A-W-A-K. This is 1/4 inch. Seems to work really good. I've I've used it in the other videos as well. So we're just going to take a piece and put it along the edge of this pocket to hold it in place while we sew. Or you could also, something on this, you can also use clips if you wanted to on this particular one. So we got that. Just gonna peel these off. And stick them to the back piece of our drop pocket. Just make sure you line them up really good along the bottom and the sides. And if you do that, your rivet holes should come out just exactly where you need them. Whoops, actually, you know what? I messed up because we have to sew this on first. So let's go back and take that off. We're gonna put tape on the card slot pocket first. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. All right, there you go. Luckily we caught that because that would have not been good. Because once that is sewn to here, this is sewn to there, then we can't sew this to here. So we've got our marks lined up on our template, on our leather from our template, and we're just gonna line this up along those, on that bottom. And again, just make sure that your rivet holes line up nice. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go over to the sewing machine and sew along that edge. See you over there. All right, we're over here at the class 20 that we're gonna use to sew it. And I've got everything set up the way I want it. Since we're just, right now we're just going to sew the pockets all together. And so I've got my stitch length set up to about 5. And when I sew on leather, I don't like to back up. So I'm just gonna start, and then when we're done, we're gonna pull everything through and tie it off in the back. So I wanna try to get as close, I like to get as close to the edge. So I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch away, maybe. I'm gonna start with my needle down, hold my tail, and then just sew around here. When I get to the corners, I just usually hand crank it and turn them. So I put pretty much, this works out to be about 1 stitch on a diagonal when I go around these radiuses. Oops. Okay, so there we go. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take and pull this thread to the inside. And we're going to tie that off, and then we're going to just clip them and melt the ends. I'm using 138 bonded nylon thread with a 22 needle. Okay, there we go. Gives it a much nicer finish edge than if you backstitch it. I think that looks kind of sloppy. So there's that one. So actually now we can go ahead and put this, we can sew this to that back piece. So we're gonna just line that up. We already got the tape on there. Line up our corners. Line up along the sides. And I'm gonna use a little clip just to kind of as a backup so that it doesn't shift at all. The nice thing about this leather, it's colored all the way through, so we don't have to do anything as far as the edges. And it's gonna, like I said, since we're doing this minimalist look anyway, that kind of takes a lot of the work out of it, because we don't have to worry about burnishing edges and all that kind of, and edging and all that kind of good stuff on this particular leather. Okay, so same thing, we're just gonna put the needle down right up there in the, about 1/8 of an inch in and 1/8 of an inch down from the corner. And so we're gonna sew all the way around to the other side. Okay, that's sewn all together, and we're just going to do the same thing, or pull these, tie them and clip them and melt them. Now you could, if you don't have a flatbed machine like this, you could easily do this, you know, on a cylinder. I've got my Toro 3000. And I can get down to the 1/38 thread in it. And this weight leather would be no problem. Sometimes on that one, if you got like 2 layers of thinner, like 2 ounce, it doesn't particularly, has a hard time, at least mine does, has a hard time. My tension gets a little off, so, but I prefer, since I got this, I absolutely love this machine because I prefer to sit down when I'm doing this type of stuff. So, okay, so I've got, this is our inside drop pocket, and it's pretty much done. We're gonna go put a tag on there in a second. And I went ahead and brought over the back panel, and I've already taped this and positioned it where I want it. So we are going to go ahead and get that sewn up too. All right. We're actually almost done, really. All we have to do is do the sides, sew the panels together, and do the corners, and attach our handles. And we got to put our rivets in. And that's ready to go. Okay, so we're gonna go over to the rivet press and go ahead and get our rivets in our corners for reinforcement. So see you there. All right, we are over at this is my Heritage foot press from Weaver, and I've got my double capped dies in the press. And we're gonna go ahead and get these set. Now, this is the double capped antique brass rivets from Tandy. These are smalls. And you can see they stick out about an 1/8 of an inch past the leather. So that's about the right size that we want. You'd rather have them a little bit too long than too short. So we're gonna go ahead and put the cap on it. Now this particular die is really made for, like, I think the 9mm heads. These are a little bit smaller, but it still works. We just want to get that kind of, just place it in there, get it lined up, and press. And there's the result. And let me tell you, I try to do these by hand, and it was awful. I mean, I couldn't set these things straight if my life depended on it. I should have done these before I sewed it together, so I'm gonna have to go in and do this now. But anyway, like I said, I could not get these things to set straight when I was hand setting them with a little tool. So any type of a rivet press to me is a real game changer. So even if you invest in a smaller tabletop one for setting rivets, I think they're definitely worth it if you're doing some bags. So there's all those ready to go. And then I'll go ahead and do the one on the back. And those are ready, so that's done. So now all we have to do is sew up our bag, and then we're going to do the handles. So let me go over and get everything put together, and we'll get to the sewing machine and do the sides and the bottom. Okay, I got my front panel and my back panel. I'm getting ready to start sewing them up. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the bottom first. So I just got them lined up and got them clipped. Put my glasses on because I'm old and I can't see very good. And we're gonna do this pattern, we're gonna do a 3/8 inch seam. And just like the other pieces, I do not back stitch here. I'm going to tie off those ends. So I'm just going to start just a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch in, put my needle down, and then sew. Okay. And then we're just going to tie these ends. Just make sure that when you do tie them that you go back and use your lighter to melt them, because otherwise this thread does not want to stay tight. Okay, all right, now what I'm going to do this time on this particular bag is I'm going to sew, I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to open up my seam, and I'm going to sew down both sides. I'm going to top stitch on both sides of this. That's going to help this bottom just open up and lay nice and flat. because this is a little heavier leather than the other stuff, so I think it'll help. But what I need to do is I need to take it over to my other workbench, and I'm gonna flatten up those seams with a hammer and get them opened up. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the center opened up and pounded pretty good. You can still see it's not wanting to lay super flat, so I think top stitching this would be a good idea. I'm just going to get the right edge of my foot right up along that seam. And I'm going to use that to make sure that it's straight. So grab my tails here and get going. And then all we're going to do is just make sure on the bottom is that you keep that seam opened up. Okay, and we're just going to turn it and do the other side. And that's what that's going to look like. So it's going to make that bottom look a lot nicer. Okay, so that's done. That also is going to help us when we go to do our corner, since that's nice and flat there. And so now we just need to pin up the sides or clip up the sides. And we're gonna start at the corner, just make sure that you get them good and clipped. And the key on here is to make sure that when you get to the top edge that it's lined up really good, because we're not gonna have anything, no like a tab for hold a D-ring or anything is gonna be on this bag to hide any little imperfections. So you just wanna make sure that you get everything really nice and lined up at the very top. Because if you don't, it's gonna be noticeable. So if you're off on your cutting at all, you're better off to start at the top, and then if you have to be off a little bit at the very bottom. Now I don't like to use tape on these seams because we're gonna have to open them up, you know, at the bottom when we box our corners. So I don't use tape on this one. Now what I really like to be able to do is do the same thing on the sides that we did on the bottom, but I'm thinking that probably requires, I don't know if it requires like one of those post machines or a patcher or what, but I think this leather would be really hard to get in this machine and to do that. So all right, so we're just going to start a little bit from the top, 3/8 inch seams, and we'll get our needle down. Move this a little bit just so it doesn't hit it when it goes by. If you have to stop at all and reposition anything, just do it with your needle down so it doesn't shift on you. That side. Okay. All right, let's tie these. Now these, since it's at the very top, I kind of like, I bring the knot just around a little bit so it's not right at the very top. So I kind of bring it to the inside just a little bit. And on this one, if you feel safer, you know, maybe back stitching to start and then go forward, you can, because this is not, obviously it's not visible from the front. I just know when I'm doing anything that's going to show on the front or on the inside, I don't like to back stitch because I don't want to see double thicknesses of thread, and I think it looks kind of sloppy. So. And to me, those are the things that kind of set the bags apart, you know, from something that's just done super quick versus something that's done slower and more attention to detail. I'm definitely in the attention to detail category for sure. But sometimes this can be a detriment because you spend a lot of time, and if you know, you want to make sure your customers are ones that appreciate that versus just want something the least expensive, because you can cut a lot of time out and go quick if you have customers that maybe don't value those small details, that really want just, they're kind of more looking for price. So, okay. So basically, all we have to do is finish off our corners, box our corners. So what we want to do is we want to, on the side seams, we want to make sure that this is, you know, opened up. That seam is opened up. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring them together like this. And we're going to sew along here. But here's the key. Make sure that those seams line up. Okay. And we're going to do it. I like to do it, I think, from with the bottom of the bag. Let's see. I guess it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a little bit awkward either way. Okay, let's do it. Yeah, let's put the bottom of the bag down. These bigger bags, it's a little harder than those little cosmetic cases. Hopefully you can see. Okay, and again, we're going to do a 3/8 inch seam. And this way, this one I'm going to start in a little bit, and I am going to back stitch just a little bit. A couple stitches and then go forward. And since we opened up that bottom and put the top stitching on each side, we know that that bottom seam is going to be opened up. And since we have the bottom of the bag on the bottom when we're sewing, we can keep a visual on these side seams to make sure that they open up and you don't sew across them so they're all pointing in one direction, because you want that seam opened up. we're pretty close there. On these heavier leathers, it's pretty hard to get them exactly that side seam and that bottom seam exactly lined up, I find, because it does want to, when you start sewing, it wants to shift just a little bit. So I guess what you could do, I've never tried it, but I guess you could sew from the center out on each side. That would help ensure that that's perfectly lined up. This is going to be a really nice bag, but it's heavy. Okay. I need to measure it because I think it might even be like a 6 ounce. Okay. Here's where it gets a little tricky, having hands to hold it, a hand to back stitch, a hand to hold your tails. Well, let's see if we can get this turned. This might take me a while, so I'm gonna put you on hold and I'll be back and hopefully the bag will be all turned around. All right, we got the bag turned. You can see how it looks. That brand is going to look amazing when it's all finished. I love it. That's the front, that's the back, and there's the inside. Seriously, this leather is freaking awesome. Anyway, okay. While I was had the camera paused, I went ahead and finished the straps. So we didn't have to take up time doing that. But basically, the pattern calls for 29.5-inch straps. That's going to give you an 11-inch drop on the shoulder straps. So I cut it to 29.5. I went ahead and I used the pointed end of the template. I don't have the pointed belt punch things. I need to order one. And I went ahead and put my holes in and I stitched it. Now this is just single ply leather because I feel like these handles, this leather doesn't have hardly any stretch to it. Nice and firm. It feels good weight wise. I just felt like if I double them up, they're gonna be so heavy. So this is really kind of outside my comfort zone because typically I like to do 2-ply handles. So we're gonna just wing this one and see how this one turns out because anyway, we'll see. But I still think it looks better to do the stitching along the edge. I think it just gives it a little extra. So really, the only thing that we have left to do is put the straps on. And when we do that, we're gonna attach the inside drop pocket. So we're going to take this over to the rivet press. All we have to do is press 4 rivets and it's done. I'll see you over there. Okay, so what we're going to do, I've kind of got them just in there, just not all the way, just so you can kind of get an idea. I don't have the backs on the rivets yet, but we're gonna put them on like this. Now this is the back of the bag. This is where we're gonna hang that inside drop pocket. Now, so we've got 1 layer of leather for the strap, we've got a layer of leather for the panel, and then we've got 1 layer of leather here. So we've got 3 layers. So I bumped up to a large rivet. The medium was not big enough. It would have been fine for 2, but since we have to go through 3 at the thickest, we needed a little bit bigger rivet. So because we're going through 3, we need to use some spacers on all 4 of the front and the top rivets on the back, on the handles. So let's do the front first, because that's easier. I'm gonna take these off for now, so they're out of my way. Okay, so I've got those rivets snapped on. Well, actually, I take that back. Those are the wrong size. Those are the smaller ones. I gotta take those off. Those are the mediums that I was playing with. All right. We're gonna get our largest. We're gonna put 2 rivets there. And we're gonna put them through here. And we're gonna add a spacer. Now the spacer, basically, I just took a small piece of the same leather. I just put a little hole in it. Now I'm gonna put that on the inside before I put on my cap. So it's gonna look like that. Okay, you can kind of see about how much is sticking out. So, all right. And those are set. Okay, and okay, so there's that handle. Now, the back one, a little bit trickier because you gotta also attach that inside drop pocket at the same time, so. We're gonna go ahead and put the rivets, the spacer, in the back on the tops. I've lost one of my little pieces. Hold on a second, let me go find it. Okay, I found it. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I went ahead and put the top 2 rivets in through the handle, through the panel, put my little spacer, put my cap on it. But I also went ahead and put in just the bottom rivet. I just put it through the hole, just so I can hold it. And all that's gonna do is just hold my angles of my straps for me. And I'm just gonna set these top ones right now. Okay, now time to do the last 2 rivets. Here's what I learned from the other 3 bags of this that I made, is that I want to make sure that when I set these, that I don't set them too tight right off the bat. Because what I found is that the first one is fine, but then the second one, sometimes this pocket has a tendency to want to just the corner curl and it doesn't lay nice in the inside of the bag. So I'm going to do it a little bit different this time. I'm going to go ahead and so I got my rivets through here and through my panel, and then I'm just going to take this, let me put it in here and then I'll show you what it looks like. I'm just going to hang that from that bottom rivet on the handle is going to go in the top hole on this piece of leather. Okay, just like that. So right here, this is the one that we're going to be setting. You can see it's not set. And that corresponds to that rivet right there on the bottom. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of just half set it, I guess. Just a little bit. So it's not super tight. So that if I have to go back, I can straighten it up. Because it's kind of hard to hold this nice and parallel to that top edge. And I find that sometimes it wants to drop, and then that's when you're going to get a little crinkle in that corner. So if I just set it like halfway, then I can make sure that it looks straight. I think that looks better. And then I can go back and just push it down a final time. And then I've got those corners are nice. So this, we're done. Basically, that's all there is to it. This bag is finished and ready to go. So I hope everybody enjoyed watching the video. I hope everybody that hasn't done a bag takes an opportunity to give it a go on something like this. I think this is a great, like I said earlier, a great bag to get going if you're just learning. It's really super easy, nothing to it. You know, just need some rivets. Another thing too, I've seen it would look really good is like the copper rivets and burrs, and that also is a really, really cool look too. I just haven't got up enough nerve to try that because I'm still learning how to peen my rivets nice. So anyway, but basically there you go. I'm gonna go ahead and there'll be a link below for the PDF. and also a link below if you do want to purchase the templates for this. So it'll be a pretty big template pack because you're going to get, you know, all the ones I showed you, the big panels. And for right now, this is going to be like just the normal size, and then I think I'm going to offer a little bit smaller one. I just want to make one first and make sure I like the dimensions of it, and then I will have that one available too, but it's going to go together exactly the same way. So anyway, hope that this was informative, that you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I'm just trying to get this whole video thing ironed out because, you know, a lot of people aren't, at least for me, I'm not comfortable behind a camera. So I'm just trying to get outside of my comfort zone and do some videos and hopefully help everybody. And if you have any questions, please post them. I think the next thing I'm going to tackle, I've got to do some, we're going to switch back over to some tack, and I've got to do some nose bands for our customers. So I thought that I would go ahead and do a video of how I do not a nose band, a tie down. So we're going to do some tie downs. So anyway, also if you have any other suggestions on videos that you'd like to see, let me know and we will see what we can do. But I certainly appreciate everybody's business, and I definitely thank you very much. So anyway, God bless.